The small cafe buzzed softly that morning, cups clinking, spoons stirring as tired faces hid behind phones and laptops. Near the window, an old woman sat alone, her grey coat buttoned neatly, her scarf tucked under her chin. She counted coins in her wrinkled hand before ordering a small black coffee. It was clear she didn't have much, but her smile for the barista was gentle, warm, the kind that made you feel seen. Across the room, a man in a plain jacket sat quietly watching her. His beard was trimmed, his posture easy, yet his eyes carried the calm confidence of someone used to leading. He had come to this branch of his cafe chain unannounced, wanting to see how customers were treated when no one knew who he was. The door swung open sharply, letting in a gust of cold air. A young student stumbled in, his wallet clattering to the floor. He fumbled through his pockets, but his voice fell small to the barista. "I'll come back later. I don't have enough." The line behind him sighed impatiently, but the old woman rose from her seat with a kind smile and placed a few of her coins on the counter. "That's enough, dear," she said softly. "Get your coffee." The student protested, but she shook her head lightly. "Don't worry, kindness always finds its way home." She turned back to her seat, her hands trembling slightly from age but her eyes glowing with peace. The man in the corner watched every second, his heart tightening at the sight. In a world rushing to take, she still chose to give from the little she had. He reached for his phone, typing a single message to his staff. "Put everything on hold. I've just found the reason I built this company." The young student took the coffee with shaky hands, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Thank you." "Ma'am, I'll pay you back, I promise." The old woman smiled and waved her hand. "Don't worry, dear, just do something kind for someone else one day. That's all the payment I need." The stranger in the corner couldn't look away. Every gesture from her spoke of quiet grace, not for attention, not for praise, but because it was simply who she was. He stood, slowly walked to the counter, and whispered something to the barista. The young man's eyes widened in recognition, and his hand went to cover his mouth as the stranger pressed a black card into his palm. Moments later, the barista approached the old woman with a soft smile. "Your coffee is on the house today, ma'am." She frowned lightly, confused. "I already paid, dear." The barista chuckled. "The gentleman over there insisted." The old woman turned her head to see the man approaching her, his smile kind but his eyes glimmering with something deeper. He stopped beside her table and spoke gently. "You didn't just buy coffee today, ma'am. You reminded me why I started this place." She blinked uncertain. "You own this cafe." He nodded quietly, and everyone like it across the country. The room went still. The students by the counter turned their heads. The barista froze mid-pour. The old woman's mouth opened slightly, her voice faint. "I only wanted to help a boy." He smiled softly. "And I only wanted to find someone who still believes in kindness." "You just did." She blushed, shaking her head. "That wasn't much." He chuckled. "Ma'am, you gave from your heart. That's worth more than all the coins in the register." The old woman's cheeks flushed with surprise, her wrinkled hands twisting around her cup as if to anchor herself. She shook her head gently. "I don't need anything, dear. I just did what anyone should." He smiled, leaning forward slightly. "That's what makes it beautiful. You didn't do it for something, you did it because it was right." He turned to the barista and said loud enough for everyone to hear. "From today, all of this cafe's profits for the next week will go toward providing free meals for anyone who can't afford one." The barista's eyes widened, while the customers looked at each other, murmuring in disbelief. The old woman gasped softly, "You don't have to do that." He chuckled. "I don't have to, but you inspired me to. You reminded me that business should serve people, not just pockets." The student she had helped stepped closer, his voice trembling. "Ma'am, if you hadn't helped me, I would have left, without eating all day." "Thank you." She reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "Promise me you'll keep this kindness moving forward, child." He nodded, tears glimmering in his eyes. "I will." The owner straightened his jacket, then knelt slightly beside her seat, pulling out an envelope, placing it gently in front of her. She looked down, confused. "What's this?" He smiled. "A lifetime of free coffee at any of my cafes, and a seat always waiting for you. no matter where you are." Her hand flew to her mouth. As tears filled her eyes, "You didn't need to do this." He replied softly, "Neither did you, but you did anyway." The cafe was silent now except for the sound of sniffles and a few claps that turned into thunderous applause as the old woman wiped her, eyes whispering, "Thank you, child. You made me proud of this world again." The next morning, sunlight spilled through the cafe windows, glinting off the new sign the owner had hung himself. It read in simple, bold letters, "Kindness served here first word," had spread overnight. Customers lined up not just for coffee, but to be part of what the old woman had unknowingly started. A businessman bought breakfast for the stranger behind him. A college girl paid for another's drink, without saying a word. The same student from yesterday now helped the barista during rush hour. His smile wide, his steps light. The old woman returned too, walking slowly, but with a quiet pride. She froze when she saw her name painted delicately on the corner of the sign, "In honor of Mrs. Parker, who reminded us that kindness still exists." Her lips trembled as she covered her heart. The owner spotted her and hurried over, still in his apron. He pulled out a chair near the window and placed her usual cup in front of her black coffee, just the way she liked it. "On the house," he said softly, "always." She chuckled, wiping the corner of her eyes. "I told you not to make a fuss." He smiled. "You didn't just buy a coffee yesterday. You bought hope for everyone in this room." She looked around, watching strangers laughing together, sharing small acts of goodness that rippled far beyond the walls of the little cafe. And as the morning light warmed her face, she whispered to herself, "Maybe kindness really does find its way home. If this story moved you, share it, so others never forget that one selfless act can rewrite a destiny in ways no one sees coming."